Hello, welcome back to Core Finance. I'm Matt Brown. I'm joined by Shaun Richards from Not a Yes Man Economics. We've had some UK jobs data out this morning. Headlines seem pretty good, actually, all things considered. What's your take on these, Shaun?
Well, there's various issues here. The one factor I want to zero in, because this is the number one sort of game in town in economics at the minute, is wages and real wage growth. There's a couple of different strands of view at the Bank of England. In essence, the majority view, and one of the reasons why they claim, I'm very careful about that, they claim, they raised bank rate last week, was that they see prospects for wage growth being higher. One of the things that they identified was that the 3-month on 3-month rate, if you annualise it for regular pay, was 2.9%. Now, I think that there are various issues in that are dubious in the first place, because if you break down any set of numbers, you can find some subsection that looks good, usually, unless they're dreadful. And also, the wage numbers themselves, average earnings, they don't really justify being looked at like that. They have a lot of problems and they're bad enough as it is. However, today poses a problem for them because the numbers come out and what do we have? Well, pretty much more of the same. As in, wage growth is a bit over 2%, but seems to have been at that sort of level for quite some time. Yesterday, and here's a sort of divergent view at the Bank of England, Sir John Cunliffe said that in essence wage growth for the credit crunch era had been between 1% and 3%, and really hadn't massively varied considering the circumstances. We've had unemployment at 8%, we've now got it at 4.3%, but wage growth, there isn't really any clear pattern between the two. And that's one of the few times that I actually agree with something the Bank of England's saying. And here's the questionable bit. Their sort of hope that wage growth will pick up. Well, they've hoped that every year, pretty much. Last year they did, year before, and so on. If we look into the actual detail of the labour market, what we've seen in the credit crunch era is something that economists would have seen as a dream ticket before. If we were to leap back a bit more than 10 years, we wanted to be more like Germany. What would that give us? Higher employment, yeah, we got that. Also, in a sense, lower wage growth. Well, we've got that too, except there's a good reason why economics is called the dismal science, and that's because when we've got it, now no one wants it, and there's worries about other areas. But this wages issue, we're just going to keep churning round and round and coming back to. We see the occasional flicker of a pickup, but so far, then that's all we get. Just to give people an idea of how this works and to put out just two of the clear problems with it. The first is that the self-employed are ignored. These numbers ignore them completely. And actually smaller firms too. So that's a bigger and bigger issue as we've seen more people be self-employed. You'd love to know what they're doing. Obviously some probably doing well, but some it's a way of sort of claiming they're employed when they're not. So there's an issue with the numbers. The other is, and I'll just give an example from this morning, which is we have numbers from September to August. And the average pay was £477 a month in each. So what really does that take us? And yet we're claiming to know monthly numbers. You go down to the pence, you get a change. But there's no way that the numbers are that accurate. But we keep churning round the same situation whereby we always think wage growth's just about to improve. And this comes back to the second element of the Bank of England view. And in fact, although this differs slightly from the majority view, because it's not so clear that wages are going to pick up. But they both come back to the old Phillips curve relationship that's completely failed in the credit crunch era, but they can't stop themselves from assuming it would come back. I'm trying hard here to think of an analogy in a world that someone would stick with something so hopeless for so long, and I can't really think of any.
Well, you could look at Arsenal Football Club, but we won't go there.
Well, that's the point. No, Sunderland could have stayed with David Moyes and he could have carried on taking them down or something, couldn't they? And nothing ever changed.
With regards to, I mean, we talked about unemployment rate, and you look at 8%, and now you're looking around 4%. Does there come a point when that feeds through to wage growth? Is there pressure now on firms, not necessarily the smaller firms, medium-sized, large firms, to start increasing wages, and will that happen in 2018? Or is it a point that the unemployment rate really doesn't have an impact on wage growth?
Well, this is a sort of nexus in the current situation because it depends how you're looking through this. I'm sure that there are more than a few companies that are doing well and will be in that situation. Labour market shortages, maybe. I mean, the numbers are very confused on this. Maybe associated with people going home because of the vote last year. Maybe not. So there'll be areas like that. But this is one of the problems when you have a lot of disparate groups. There seem to be quite a large number of companies that are either not raising wages at all or raising them by 1 or 2%. And so in there, it's then very difficult to pick out a trend, because if you look back in the wages numbers, we've seen periods where the headline's gone to 3% over the last 2 or 3 years. So you could have made that argument then, except it hasn't turned up. If we go back to economic theory, this sort of stuff comes in with the idea of a natural rate of unemployment. There you go. I'll do something the Bank of England doesn't do. I'll own up to a mistake that I made. If you asked me 10 years ago, I thought it was about 4.5%. Actually, it might have been true then. Certainly not now, because we're below that and we haven't got any real wage growth, have we? So there's the thing, and that's my problem with this whole argument, that how does this work if you keep moving the numbers? Bank of England started at 7% unemployment, 6.5%, 6%, 5.5%. It now argues 4.5%, and it's caught up with me a decade late. And then where do you say? Would it then be 4 or 3.5? You can keep chasing these numbers now, because if we look at Japan, number clicks about, but unemployment's approximately 3%, but they've got no wage growth at all.
Yes.
So that argument, I think, you know, if we was on our laptop right now, I'd be pressing the recycle button to put the whole thing away. Doesn't work. Maybe at some point, and this is the worst part of it, at some future date, it might look like it's worked, and then everyone will grab at it and claim it again. But how does that work? If we would go to any other example, if you had something that worked once in 10 years, you'd think that was really bad, wouldn't you?
Indeed. Like a broken watch, it tells the right time at least twice a day. Shaun Richards, on that note, thank you very much for joining us.